Okay, calm down.
Before I show Lawrence O'Donnell today, I want to show Lawrence O'Donnell from before. Let's take a look at this pretty astute observation he makes, and he has the experience to make it. This is from a bunch of years ago.
If you want to pull the party, the major party that is closest to the way you're thinking, to what you're thinking, you must show them that you're capable of not voting for them. If you don't show them you're capable of not voting for them, they don't have to listen to you. I promise you that. I worked within the Democratic Party. I didn't listen or have to listen to anything on the left while I was working in the Democratic Party, because the left had nowhere to go.
The left had nowhere to go. Now let's fast forward and hear what Lawrence had to say in late October of this year.
Senator Ocasio-Cortez has had enough of Jill Stein, the Green Party candidate for president.
All you do is show up once every 4 years to speak to people who are justifiably pissed off, but you're just showing up once every 4 years to do that? You're not serious. You're not, to me, it does not read as authentic. It reads as predatory.
Donald Trump became president of the United States thanks to the Electoral College and Jill Stein. The votes that Jill Stein took from Hillary Clinton in key Electoral College states were enough to help Donald Trump win Michigan, Wisconsin, and Pennsylvania. Donald Trump is very grateful to Jill Stein. He says that he likes Jill Stein because she takes 100% of her votes from the Democratic candidate for president. And that's why the Harris for President campaign is now running this ad.
Jill Stein, Green Party candidate for president. So why are Trump's close allies helping her? Stein was key to Trump's 2016 wins in battleground states. She's not sorry she helped Trump win. That's why a vote for Stein is really a vote for Trump.
Jill Stein, I like her very much. You know why? She takes 100% from them.
I'm Kamala Harris, and I approve this message.
I'll let you guys respond. But one thing I love is now we're supposed to agree with Trump and take his analysis and his numbers seriously. The transition from the old Lawrence to the new Lawrence is fascinating. Although, you know, it's not even contradictory, because he's kind of demonstrating what he said in the first place, right? He's saying that if you want to be able to have any influence, you need a place to go. And he obviously doesn't want there to be that influence. He doesn't want people to have the place to go. So he's actually not even contradicting himself. But what do you guys have to say about his clip? I know you've responded to AOC already. If you have anything new.
I just kind of tune it out, but, you know, I don't know that everybody else can do that. So I'll say, you know, at risk of like beating a dead horse here, that we don't go away. It's the media that goes away. It's like, if you don't get that, you know, like, how naive can you be? We're here, we're doing the work, you know, we're fighting against the war in Ukraine. We're fighting for Julian Assange. We're helping lower office candidates, some 140 of them, get elected. We're raising money. You know, AOC's whole analysis is like based on the idea that people-powered parties are the equivalent of billionaire, or I should say, you know, billionaire-sponsored politics. We're not, and in fact, they target us. If they would leave us alone, then yeah, maybe we would be on an even playing field. But they don't, and you know, they impersonate us. They commit fraud. You know, what they did to Matthew Ho, who was running for Senate. And I was working to help him get elected, you know, among many other candidates. I was not like, didn't have my head in the some hole in the sand somewhere. You know, but we're up against Democratic Party, who's not only like funded, you know, in this last race, they were spending the equivalent of our entire budget and more. They had way more staff than we did, simply for the purpose of smearing us. This was their war room, and this was one of the products of their war room. You know, when AOC put out her pathetic, condescending, patronizing, you know, statement from kind of her in her semi-reclined position on her couch, whatever she was doing, pretending she was so casual and natural
Right.
about
Like it was
this.
just coming to her in real time.
Yeah, exactly. She was just kind of thinking about this one day, relaxing. No, she's just a total attack dog for the, Democratic Party elites. Um, she's saying like that we are just, coming around every 4 years. It's complete nonsense. And when she did that, she got totally dragged on social media in the same way that the head, Jamie Harrison, the head of the DNC, he got totally dragged in the same way that Angela Ray or Rye, whatever her name is, got totally dragged. And the comments, on the Breakfast Club were overwhelmingly, give me a break. I didn't know that there was actually a real choice in this election. I'm going out to register green, which is why they panicked. They completely panicked. They had to suppress the knowledge of our existence because people are done. They're really done with the Democratic Party and they're staying home. And so they had to conduct this enormous fear campaign. And what she said, to my mind, is so disgusting. It's just this disgusting blather. It sort of, sabotages itself. You don't even have to condemn it, but basically this was complete nonsense, not true. And we did not steal votes. Elections are competition. You're supposed to compete for votes. So that's nonsense. But in addition to that, polls actually showed that people who voted green would not otherwise have voted. And given that 1 out of every 3 voters, eligible voters, doesn't come out to vote, don't they deserve a voice? They're basically saying no to these candidates of the political elite and the economic elite being rammed down their throats. Non-voters are largely of color, lower income, and younger, and they don't have skin in this game. Don't they deserve candidates who are fighting for rent control, for $25 minimum wage, for healthcare as a human right, for bringing our military dollars, half of our congressional budget, back here to actually meet our needs here at home instead of getting us into trouble on the verge of nuclear war in 3 places around the world right now? Don't voters deserve that too? I mean, it's just such patent nonsense. They can only get away with it because we can't be heard and because they are effectively silencing us. So it's like, to me, it's just like shame on them that they come up with this outrageous stuff. And why do they run these same old tired smears? Because they can't come up with other stuff. If we had some big corporate contributions or something else that they could smear us with, they would do that. But, it's like I've been in the public eye here for 12 years at least. So they can't come up with new stuff. So they keep kind of running the same old, really tired, offensive smears. So, I think it's just, it's nonsense. And dare to say that to our face when we can actually rebut it. I dare you. Let's have a debate about this.
Well, and let's also just be clear that they have to issue these kinds of ad hominem attacks because they cannot in any conversation cite policy. Because if they cite policy, then they draw attention to the fact that our policies are the policies that the American people want. So there is no way of actually doing this in politically legitimate fashion except to resort to ad hominem attacks. I'll say one thing, about AOC Pelosi, because, yeah, say her name right. I'll try to paraphrase myself, after she made that little sorry video. What I said is that it is really rich coming from AOC Pelosi, who set the land speed record for fastest betrayal of the American people, to talk about other folks being predatory. Predatory is murdering 200,000 people in an open air concentration camp, and then telling people that you're supposed to vote. And AOC Pelosi, who likes to play progressive, but is a Nancy Pelosi clone, a corporate sellout shill for the murderous, hawkish neocon establishment. She likes to cosplay progressive. but she can't, even play the role anymore, because she's swimming in filthy cash from, from where she sits. So it's really rich coming from her of all people. But you'll notice that they had to put AOC, then they had to put Keith Ellison, George Takei. So they have to bring out the colored wing of the Democratic Party, because the Democratic Party is a plantation. The elites say, the elites say we gotta, come after these leftists, but we gotta hide behind some people of color, gotta make sure people of color do it. Massa say jump, AOC say how high, Keith Ellison say how high, and they go and they put out the hit. They follow the orders, and it's a plantation because they also think that they have ownership of certain demographic groups as part of their voting blocks. When they say you spoiled the election because you stole these votes from us, what they're saying is Black voters belong to us. Latin voters
Yeah.
belong to us. And anybody that comes for those voters is taking our voters because we own those voters. They are our property. Stay away from our slaves. So that's the one thing that I would say in response to AOC Pelosi's garbage and nonsense. With respect to Lawrence O'Donnell, this brings another element into the conversation, right? And it brings into to play the way that the corporate media has been completely complicit and corrupted in manufacturing consent for this genocide and trying to play nice as though you can oppose a genocide and support a genocider. Right? They like to offer token, expressions of, how unfortunate it is that there's a humanitarian crisis and so forth. But let us be clear, there is blood on MSNBC's hands, period. And this is now a media machine that serves to justify blue MAGA the same way that Fox News works for red MAGA. And we need independent media options that are not, sucking straight from the teat of, the same APAC and War Machine sources. Because as long as these are, of course, you're going to see Lawrence O'Donnell. Lawrence O'Donnell knows the difference between right and wrong, but he likes, the paychecks that he receives, from that network. And these are just patronage networks now that serve to justify and reinforce power. They don't serve another function.
It's not only entitled and problematic to assume that you own people's votes, but it just isn't true. I mean, Ben Jealous is not a fan, with all due respect, Ben Jealous is not a fan of you guys, right? In 2016, people were blaming Jill for Trump's win, and he said, guys, stop it. Most of these people wouldn't have voted for the Democrat anyway. So when people like Lawrence O'Donnell and Rhodes Scholar Rachel Maddow, who's smart enough to know this, when they point to these numbers that went to Stein and these numbers missing from Hillary, they act as if they definitely would have gone to Hillary, but for Jill Stein, which shows they're either liars or they're not very smart.
There were two polls came out right before the election that indicated that we were taking as many voters away from Trump as from the Dems anyway. So yeah.
In fact, more.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
More
There's
even.
a Newsweek. I know
Yeah.
there was this Newsweek article. It says a new poll, Jill Stein hurts Donald Trump more than Kamala Harris poll suggests.
Yep.
But no one ever talks about that. I've been very disappointed in Bernie. A lot of people are very disappointed in Bernie. I will say, though, to me, there is an important difference between Bernie stumping for Biden and AOC stumping for Biden. Because Bernie, when he says, and I think he's being honest here, he said, he obviously thinks that Trump is worse than Harris. But he never pretended that she was being a true progressive, never pretended Harris was being a true progressive. I would have liked for him to have not endorsed, or at the very least tried to get some concessions from her, but he didn't lie about that, at least that aspect of it. But then AOC gets on stage and says she's working tirelessly for a ceasefire. And now not only have you just obviously endorsed them, but your cred is shot with anyone who actually cares about this issue. It was just such a stupid thing to do. I mean, you could make the argument, which Bernie made this argument, not whether or not you agree with it. It's not an inherently dishonest, I would say, argument. He says, look, Biden and Harris aren't where I'd like them to be on Gaza. but Trump will be worse. Again, you can agree or disagree. It's not an inherently dishonest argument. I think you can have a political debate about it, but with AOC just saying she's working tirelessly for a ceasefire, it's just an unforced error.
They're gaslighting you. That's
Yeah.
that's all it is.